Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Brendan Lee with Consciousness and Skill Worldwide, founded by Peter Ralston. Do yourself and me a favor, like, subscribe to the channel, and please share the video at least 100 times. It'd be great. I want to go somewhere with you. I want to invite you to come somewhere with me. Judgment. Judgment is the good and bad of things, but look. We hear about judgment, but I don't know that we tend to look and see judgment for what it is. For example, you see, I want to show you how it functions. If I make a shape with my hand, you see, is it good or bad? Is it good or bad? You see, likely in this culture, I do one of these to you. You're like, oh, you might even have a good feeling about it. Oh, he's giving me a thumbs up. That's good. I like it. And it's a sign of good, right? It's a sign of good. But is the hand itself good or bad? Are you good? Are you good? Are you bad? Are you bad? Are you bad? Are you good? What are you? If the hand doesn't care, my hand does not care. If I chop my hand off, like if we cut off a hand and put it on the ground and you look at it, is the hand complaining about that? No, you are. The hand doesn't care. The hand probably doesn't even know about good or bad, you see? So is this good or bad? Neither. So now where does this exist? This, positive or negative, what we're calling judgment. See, usually I think we usually consider judgment like, oh, they're being judgy, like it's a negative. But no, it's also a positive. And can you see how it changes the way you feel about this? Your perception. You see, it's as if the judgment comes from you and you put it on the perception itself. Oh, it's good. Yes. How about this one? Oh, it's bad. You see? But it's not, the good and the bad does not exist over here. It exists in you. And can you see how it changes? If you see, and rapidly can change. You see, if this starts to become this, and then starts to become this, it's, but then it's like this. Can you see it changing in process? Something's good, and it might turn to bad. Oh, but it changes in process. Now, if you look and pay attention, and I want to invite you to do so, you are so good at this that you already have entire rooms mapped out. Your entire perceptive experience right now is mapped out into basically 3 categories: good, bad, and indifferent. The indifferent stuff you don't really pay attention to, so we can just take that away. What I mean by that is you won't perceive it. You literally do not perceive the stuff that you don't care about. And then you might take a look around and or it's not that you don't perceive it, it will fade in the background of your awareness and you may not notice it. It's not to say that it's not there, you just don't care. The rest is all good and bad, and it's mapped out, and you do it fast. You are not slow at this. This is incredibly fast and incredibly insidious, powerful. Now, the thing with judgment is, because it's something you're doing, you can also stop doing it. You can recognize the activity of making things positive or negative in your experience and don't. And let things be exactly the way they are without the good and bad, and or recognize the good and bad for what it is, and then just grasp the object or whatever you're looking at. Sans good or bad, without good or bad. You can do that. You can simply stop judging. And it will change your experience. Okay, so when, if I get a question here, we're talking about the racism aspect. We judge it immediately as a bad thing, And likely because of the judgments, we miss perhaps the reality of what's going on and what it is and how it functions. We may not see it clearly for what it is, the racism part. You see, immediately, even within the word, I can sense in myself, racism is bad. You see? It is a bad thing. You know? Personally, I see it as bad when there are bad things happening to people. That's a different matter. That's a personal matter and a moral issue. That's not where I'm coming from when I'm doing these videos, for the most part. Okay? I'm not interested in the morality. I'm interested in, like, what is it? What's going on? So one component we have here is the judgment component. And hopefully now you can see that a little better. Okay, now another aspect that, and I'm going somewhere with this, another aspect is assumptions. Now, what I mean about this is assumptions, like I did in a previous video, I talked about bottom line contemplation. The assumption part is what we assume about reality. We assume is true of reality, and then usually we forget that that's something that we've done, and we assume, that's true, and now when I look out at the world, I am viewing from the assumption that I've made. You know, like one big assumption, for example, we assume the sun's going to come up tomorrow, but we have no proof that that's the case. We just have a lot of memories of stuff has happened this way in the past, it will happen tomorrow, but we live as if that's a certainty. The sun, the assumption that the sun is going to come up tomorrow dominates the perception. It dominates how we relate to the world in a small way. As far as I can tell, I don't really think about that very much. That just lives like that's going to happen. It's happened a million times. It's going to happen again. But that's an assumption. That is not proven fact. Say, an asteroid, a meteor could come destroy the whole planet, and no sun up tomorrow. See? So now that is an assumption and a place where a stepping stone can occur. I want to open you up to the area that I'm talking about. And in addition to that, we make many, many, many assumptions about people. For example, like you likely live in a world that you think of people a certain way, don't you? I mean, I know I do. People, like bring up people in your experience. People. Do you like people? Are people good? Are they bad? Are certain types of people a certain way? Are they going to continue to be that way? That's an assumption. You know, are people flaky? Like as a whole, a blanket. Yes, all people are flaky. Now, here's the power of assumptions that I think is underestimated and, well, actually probably not investigated very much at all, is what people miss about assumptions, if they look into them at all, is that the assumption itself dominates perception. Let me say that again. It dominates your perception. Your perception in this case, what I mean when I say your perception is the world that you live in of sight and sound and what you interpret to be the case. I don't mean like the ultimate truth of perception. I mean what you interpret personally to be the case. Like if you see a red wasp, for example, and you see it as evil because you've been lit up by these guys a lot, right? The interpretation itself is full of the fear and the anger and the pain and the memory, and it's right there. It lives as if it's right over there in the wasp itself. Uh-oh! And it lives like it's over there, not in here. You see? That's the power of the assumption. It looks like it's real. It looks like it exists outside of me. It's over there. That's the power of the assumptions. And it is not that way. Why? Because some people are not afraid of red wasps. So to think that the fear and the anger towards the creature is inherent in the creature outside of me is a mistaken assumption. It's over there. It looks like it's over there. Well, it must be. You know, when an asshole walks into a room, you know, like Peter would say here, and we use this in workshops, when an asshole walks into a room, it's an asshole. They're right there. It's clear. Everybody can see it, right? I know I can see it. I will even hear them as an asshole. I will see them as an asshole. I'll have reactions that are consistent with, oh, that's how I deal with assholes, you know, whatever you do with assholes. And the whole world is dominated by that. I'm dominated. That's the power. You see, like I heard a story, and I'm going to start bleeding into culture now, okay? So the assumptions are powerful. As in, they dominate reality, what we call reality, okay? And what I'm calling interpretation. Interpretation is like you look out, you see, oh, there's a tree, there's a camera, there's a red wasp, and then the meaning, the judgment, the good and the bad is all boop, and the past history also gets as if layered onto my very sight. So it's like a hallucination in a sense, like my sight. My hearing is all, that's what that is. That's what that becomes. The dangerous insect that's going to hurt me. And it becomes that in reality out there. See, that's the power of assumptions. They dominate. So now, culture. We get into culture. Very powerful stuff. Haven't you noticed that people of different cultures, you can recognize different cultures, can't you? Cultures have different value systems. Recognizably different value systems. The thinking is different. The modes of interaction are different. The language and speech is different. And language, don't get me started on that. That's a whole nother deal that we dig way into in some workshops. It's powerful. Language dominates how you think. And people don't necessarily realize that, as far as I can tell. But culture. So you see, like Mexican culture has a thing that's going on that American culture doesn't. And Chinese culture is different than European culture and Indonesian culture. Even Australians, like even within the European, as if subset, Australians are a bit different than British. And we'd say they're pretty close. Different than Americans. You see, so culture. Again, powerful, powerful stuff. You know, when people are born in a culture, it's a widely shared, you know, system of assumptions and values, and the values come out of the assumptions. So the assumptions are like the base. They live in the background. Well, they don't live in the background. They're right here. But they're the base of what we think is like good and bad kind of thing. Like the wasps. Yeah, it's bad. I just have that as a thing. It's bad right away. Why? Because I've already got it held that I've assumed that that's the case. See, but then culture has its own power. Entire social structures are built around culture. So I want to acknowledge the power that's there. It's not like, oh, you can just tell a Mexican person that is steeped and grew up in Mexican culture to just suddenly stop thinking and behaving that way. They're not likely to change that right away. Unless they do. I'm open. I'm just noticed that's powerful stuff. Like, I'm an American. I've got certain American traits and values that are likely hard to see and perceive when you're in the middle of the value system. These things are difficult to see when you're in them. Like it's like trying to tell a fish about water. Fish is going to be like, what? What do you mean water? They've never known anything else. Maybe flying fish are a little better. They're like, first time they jump out of the water, they're like, holy shit! Or probably more like, it's like, no, this is normal, and then they go out and they're like, oh my God, air. And then, anyway, see? So I want to invite you to consider the challenge if we are wanting to change something about racism. It is useful to acknowledge the forces that be. And culture is one of those forces. It's no joke, powerful stuff. Another aspect I want to talk about is that the way that humans work is one aspect is we always will relate to what we interpret to be the case, or what, perception. Loosely using the word perception to mean interpretation, but like what you think is over there. The red wasp, it's bad. We always relate to what we perceive. You will not ever not relate to what you perceive. So if you perceive a red wasp over there and you want to kill them all because they're red wasps, that will be your relationship, and that immediately comes up as that's the thing to do with that, because they have hurt me in the past or whatever. But it's even worse than that. I will immediately see them as that, and that's what I want to do with that. So since we relate to what we perceive, and we usually have a preset value system of relationship to what we perceive, very quickly we already have this mapped out. Like, you know what to do when you see a snarling dog. You know what to do when you see food you like. You know what to do when you see food you don't like. You already have all these, and then spread that around. You already have all this stuff mapped out. So then to change, so then it makes sense, it follows and makes sense that if there were a blanket statement, or a blanket interpretation of an entire race of people based on their skin color, and we all as a culture hold that type of person to be a certain way, and then we build up laws and systems to relate as a culture, that it is very possible that we have systems that are in place that are broken, but that came from a mistaken perception. They came from a mind of a human being. All the systems that have been created to manage humans have been created by humans, and the only thing keeping them in place is the agreements that we have made culturally. There is nothing that is there that is the system. The system, as if doesn't exist, it exists within the person. Well, you see, now I imagine this is not going to go over well. Like, for example, I tried to start a business. No, I started a business, right? I dabble in real estate. And one of the things I noticed when I started a business is there is no business anywhere. They say, okay, well, where is the business? Let's say Starbucks, right? Where is the business? Is the business the people that are in it? No. That's a person who works for Starbucks. Is the business the building itself? No, that's a building that's owned by Starbucks. So then where is the Starbucks? Is the Starbucks the CEO? No, that's the CEO of Starbucks, you see? Where does it exist? Where is the business? The business, as it turns out, is nothing more than a piece of paper that gets filed in a government office somewhere and puts on record some writing on a piece of paper. That's like the most tangible core thing that we could call a business, is some sort of filing. But it only gets to exist if everybody agrees that it gets to exist that way. The only reason these systems, and that allows for the business, Starbucks. And then there are laws about how Starbucks does their money, where it should go, when it should go there. And all of the laws, they don't exist either. The only way that these things get to exist is because we've agreed as a culture that that's going to be the way we do it. Because we can look at historical evidence and see that not all cultures operate the same way and have not. So it's wide open. And it just so happens now we live within the American system, if you're in America. And that was created by people who came over historically from England. We basically said, oh, we don't like what you're doing. We're tired of the monarchy stuff. Fuck off. And if you're politely, and very well written, by the way, go away. We're going to do our own thing. And if you want to come after us, we're basically going to kick your ass. And we did. We said no more. But now we have another system in place. But the system itself does not exist except in the people that do it. Like, it literally has no substance. And yet, so where does it exist? Like I said, it exists as that agreement. I am not saying that this agreement is weak. This is a massively powerful agreement between people, between a large amount of people. So if we were to look for some change, you're talking about changing the people. See, because the systems were generated in relationship to some perceived reality. Oh, I perceive reality this way. I think we should build a system that encompasses that perception. So in order to change the systems, we must change the perception. If that is something that is wanted and needed or wanting to occur. And then then we get to, well, if the problem lies within the people, how do you get a bunch of people to change how they think? Well, have you ever tried to change how you think? Have you ever tried to change yourself as a human being? Have you ever tried to make some fundamental shift in your core as a human being? See, then now I think we're much closer to the source of the problem if we're assessing there's a problem, which again is good and bad. And changing a human being, now that's a different deal. That's no joke. Because there are forces that have humans continue to be the way that they are. And those forces are not weak. Not weak, not to my estimation. And the same with culture. Some powerful forces at work here. So, in addition to the investigation that I've laid out, and hopefully we've made some headway, also a consideration of change. If change were to occur, it starts with me. Right here is where it starts. And then if I can change myself, then maybe I can help somebody else shift to something that is more, but then change to what? You see, then I have an invitation to move in the direction of personal power, growth, freedom, authenticity, integrity. Love yourself, love others, accept others. I think these are empowering directions to go. But like I said, we're playing around. It's like we're messing with some serious forces here. And I believe in order to affect change, if that is something that you want to have happen, It's useful to grasp what you're working with and acknowledge what's there. Okay? So this has been another investigation. Thank you very much for listening. Please do me a favor, do everybody else a favor. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to get serious, please check the links in the description. Come to a workshop. All these things. And much love, huh? This is Brendan Lee with Consciousness and Skill Worldwide, founded by Peter Rallison. I'll catch you later. Bye.